Did you start already?
Yes.
Of course you started already. This is the behind the scenes glimpse of Free Zone with. In other words, I wasn't ready. I have all these camera angles to keep up with people, so bear with me. Right?
Well, I apologize, everyone. We need to keep Melinda in. So.
Welcome. I'll give you all a few minutes to catch up. Free Zone live with your host of the day, starting on my far right. Welcome, Melinda. Welcome, Petra. Petra. And the one, the only, the incomparable teenager. How y'all doing today? Well, we're gonna jump right in it because we're a little late. We're a little late because, of course, hair had to be done. So we're a little late. But we'll jump right in it. We're gonna start off with Puerto Rico, with the Jones Act. And let me read you what the Jones Act is, and then we'll talk about why we're discussing it in relationship to disaster relief that is going on in Puerto Rico right now. The Jones Act was enacted after World War I, and it is a shipping law which mandates that any shipping of people or cargo between two U.S. ports must be done with U.S. ships to avoid tax and tariff penalties. It was passed after World War I, as I said, and is to help sustain American shipping industry after the devastating losses that occurred during World War I. So that's what the Jones Act is. Now, in Texas and in Florida, after the hurricanes, the Jones Act was suspended so they could get, the act was temporarily waived following Hurricane Harvey and Irma, and to prevent the widespread fuel outages that were being experienced in those places from shipping. The Department of Homeland Security, George Moore, said this is, the situation in Puerto Rico is much different than those that have happened in Texas and Florida under the hurricane. So that's why they said Puerto Rico they were not going to waive the Jones Act in accordance with that. Stats also point at this point that of the 3.4 million people in Puerto Rico, 97% of them are still in the dark. Half of the population do not have running water at this time. And our illustrious president plans to visit there not a week after, which would be today, but next week. He plans to visit Puerto Rico. All right, so what do y'all think about that?
I think that the president I think his response is slow, and I think that he should have been, I think he should have been on it like immediately, and I think that 2 weeks, we're not doing anything. We're not doing anything with Puerto Rico. We're leaving these Americans stranded out there on their own to fend for themselves.
Yeah, and I guess because he thought NAMBA was a place, maybe he doesn't realize that Puerto Rico is an actual place, or that it's a U.S. citizen territory.
I was just gonna say,
and they're U.S. citizens. So, and I admit that the logistics, because I was wondering myself, during Hurricane Irma and Harvey in Texas and Florida, we did things to get help there personally. So it's the logistics of getting things to Puerto Rico are more difficult, I admit personally, but we have sites for all the living presidents, except 45, of course, have joined together and they're forming a charity organization that you can give to, and I'll post that site. But, to realize that our government is not undertaking this issue as seriously or as effectively. I mean, we're the richest country on the planet with the world's largest military. We have aircraft carriers that you can just pile stuff on. And 97% of the population of Puerto Rico is without power.
97% of the population of Puerto Rico is brown skinned. I mean, that answers the whole thing. Immigrants, brown skin, black skin, anything that's besides white, that ultimately, that's what it comes down to. I mean, honestly, he has shown us time and time again that if you do not have white skin, you are not a priority on his list except to be deported. I mean, that's the only thing. That's the only thing he wants to hear.
Yeah, and
I don't even want to call him 45. I'm going to start calling him he.
No, I don't. 45.
True, good point. Okay, so what's
but then again, I feel bad for the number 45 because I feel like some of these organizational gang members that they don't say letters or something. I'll be counting 44, 46. People like, you left out 45. I'm like, yeah, it's got a bad rap.
Yeah, you don't want to be recognized as 45.
Yeah, but it's just, how do we get to the point where we justify this anymore? How do we get to the point where we get mad when somebody calls somebody a white supremacist, but your actions are speaking that you mean to tell me Air Force One cannot get to Puerto Rico before next week, 2 weeks after the worst?
Well, no, because he has to come to Alabama to the Klan rally.
Oh, well.
I mean, don't forget.
We'll get to that.
Don't forget, the Alabama, because he's still campaigning.
Yeah.
I mean, he hasn't does he know that he won the presidency? Has he been informed of this?
He knows that. Trust me, he won't let us forget it. He knows that. And I thought Alabama was so interesting because that's your state, isn't it? You poor girl. But get to Alabama and you have your Senate campaign. You either have Steve Bannon on your side or you have 45 on your side.
And, I'm gonna tell you right now,
that's a lose for Alabama.
And ultimately it's gonna be Moore because Moore's been removed from office twice already. And it's a very well-known fact in Alabama that they keep re-electing or putting Moore in office because he keeps getting me pulled out.
Well, he was a judge, and and I see that. And now he's going to be, because I don't see Alabama putting a Democrat in the Senate. No. So I think the winner of that primary between Strange and Moore, who was going to be the senator from Alabama. But I also think this is the funny part for me. Looking at Roy Moore's background and some of the things he says, and he was outspoken way before 45 came onto the scene and said some of the same things, and he's endorsed some of the same principles as 45. But you get to the fact that I don't think Mitch McConnell wants to deal with him either. I don't think he's the Republican that the Republican establishment wants to deal with. So I'm watching that play out, and that should prove entertaining. But you're talking about a man that
because they're not Republicans, wow. They're independents that are running as Republican. Because again, people vote party lines. They vote because of a letter R. Oh, I don't care who it is. It's a letter R. Let me vote for them. So you have this infestation of like roaches impeding on the Republican Party. And I feel sorry for the Republican Party right now. And it's really sad. I mean, because
you feel sorry for the Republican
Party. Well, because there's like a level
of the country that we have the Republican Party.
Yeah. But you have the roach infestation that is coming and getting involved in it.
But what about this, right? And that was fine. That's fine for the general primary. But what about the runoff between these two roaches that you have? It's like you have Moore and you have Strange. It sounds like the making of a good movie. More Strange. So you have this, and so you say Moore is not a Republican, but he won the Republican primary running against a Republican.
Because if he ran as independent, he would never get elected.
Yeah, I don't know. This is Alabama. I think,
I mean, of course,
I wouldn't be surprised if he could have, I think he could have, I think he's still going to be the senator with the background. But don't get, hey, 45 used to claim he was a Democrat, so. Yeah, that's
wolves in sheep's clothes. Yeah.
But that's your state. But no,
Illinois is my state.
Yeah.
I don't claim Alabama.
Yeah, that doesn't matter. Yeah, that was the last place you called me from. But you get to this point, and like, I want to come back to that, but I still want to deal with the Puerto Rico issue. Is that this should be a no-brainer that the Jones Act should be waived. It's been waived for other places before, and this is, it is disturbing to me, troubling to me,
I think,
that we are okay with this, or that people don't even
well, I
understand.
don't think we're okay with this. I think ultimately what it is 45 is trying to push us back to the times when the local communities would support each other, where he's pushing us back to a time where, like USM right now, the Psychology Club, okay, it has been holding a fundraiser that all the donations are going to the hurricane victims. You know, he's pushing people back to the point that we're going to step up and we're going to somehow raise money or raise funds or try to help out Puerto Rico in some way.
Okay, and I don't agree with that, because when you get down to it, I don't care how many funds we raise, we don't have aircraft carriers.
I agree with that.
And aircraft, two well-placed aircraft characters on either end of the island with supplies on a constant flow would do much more than if we had a fundraiser that we have to get funds to Puerto Rico in the next week or the next month.
The problem with that is the aircraft carriers got to be free. Right now, we have 2 males that are having a penis measuring contest.
Okay, and
so, you know,
worked in the military, was in the military. A lot of aircraft carriers that are on duty that a war with Korea is not going to involve every aircraft carrier in our
No, it's not.
And
I mean,
it's not. That's I hear you. But that's an argument that doesn't hold water in the military, because we have the capability to fight a 2-front war in the Middle East, in Afghanistan, which is still going on, America's longest war.
Yeah.
But we're also talking about supplies, and we're not just talking about the aircraft carriers. We're talking about, we could commission the whole Jones Act, is that we could use ships, other ships, to go to American ports and have supplies delivered there. We're looking at the most devastating storm to hit Puerto Rico since 1920, I believe. And this is our response. Like you said, the president has not even elected to schedule a trip there to next week.
Right,
Next week? I mean, yeah. Yeah, and then what next is this? If Mexico decided to send help to Puerto Rico, would we accept it? You know, look what happened in Houston. I mean, would we accept it? Because of the Jones Act, they can't land in an American port with cargo from American cities. So here we are not accepting help from other countries because of this, the wall,
right.
your perception. And we're not helping our own citizens. You know, so what is the outcome? What do we do about this? And like I say, even as an independent citizen, there's a difference when we can load up a semi and drive down to Texas or drive to Florida. But now we have to, even the best, if we get cruise class ships that now we wouldn't have a place to dock, but the military can get supplies from an aircraft carrier onto land. You know, the state of emergency is usually created so we can free up funds instantly. But in Puerto Rico, when I'm watching the news and I'm seeing the fact that there are millions, not a couple of hundred, but millions of people without running water. We're looking at a part of the United States that looks like a third world country, and we are the richest and most powerful country on the planet, regardless of what people tell you. And, you know, you mean we can't help our own right now? We have the capability, we have the technology, and we have the supplies, and we're hung up on the Jones Act? You know, if this was, I don't know, Mar-a-Lago, I could best believe that we would be well on the way to rebuilding it by now. and we would have oh, he did have many trips. He would have many trips there to make sure everything was all right. And, you know, this is what I tell people when I talk about that. I just want this country to live up to the creed and its promise of what it stands for. But when I see things like this and people say, you're playing the race card, or you're doing this, or you're saying that, but I'm not playing the race card. Excuse me, y'all. That was my phone going off. I apologize. It was supposed to be on silent. But you said we're playing the race card, but I didn't deal the deck. I didn't shuffle the deck, and I didn't create the deck. The race cards are in there. And so, and as long as we see things like this happening, I'm going to call it what it is. A spade is a spade. It's racist, and it's dangerous, and it's divisive. So Alabama has joined us, you all. She's back. I believe she voted. Who would you have voted for? Moore or?
Honestly?
Y'all honestly know she's contemplating killing me on live video.
No, actually, I was gonna say my left nut. But
Okay, censors. Where were you at with that one? All right, so we're gonna definitely
actually, it was funny. I've been talking about that a lot because I.
Yeah, really?
Well, no, because I know people that during the last presidential election, they claimed they voted for Hillary, and they actually did vote at all.
They voted.
And they're telling people they voted for her just to get people shut up.
Really?
Yeah. And they'll tell you privately. I mean, I've had conversations on the side with people, and they're like, "I voted for my." I'm like, "Wow."
Wow.
Are they divided about?
Talk about more information than I wanted to know. Just let me believe you voted for Hillary. All right.
I apologize for leaving everyone.
She gone? Moving right along. Well, now, my next topic is the NFL. The way that the
No female left?
Or the way that the owners, after our illustrious number 45 said that, he would like to see the owners fire and called NFL players sons of bitches. And like we say, it get to that point where I say, okay, I never thought, and I was, we talked about this last week, say, yeah, I can't believe he do anything he does surprises you. Okay, the man stand up and
go. Well, I'm not surprised at anything he does.
Yeah, it got me again. He called them son of bitches, right? And I was like, really? And the thing that gets me is that, after Charlottesville, after his delay, and then after he comes out and he says there were good people on both sides, it took him all of 5 minutes to call son of a bitches of the NFL players that were peacefully protesting, right? And like I say, we just go to calling things what they are, and what they are is racist. And why is it that when people of color succeed or become financially successful or able, people of non-color, when they do protest, point at them like, what are you protesting for? Like, and I have some interesting dialogue on that when we get to it. But you remember Kim Davis? Kim Davis was the clerk of the court, Kentucky.
I remember Kim Davis.
That refused to issue marriage license to gay couples.
Yeah.
And, this was her job to issue marriage license to gay couples.
And she had several divorces.
Yeah, yeah. And then, but we get to the point, my point was like, she was held up by the conservative right as a hero.
Because she's a bigot.
And, on the job, they were like, she was protesting, she was literally protesting on her job.
Yeah.
And she was literally doing things that her job required, but she was not choosing to do to them. And she was held up as a hero to the.
But isn't there a qualification to be a hero to be a bigot?
Well, let's say, but then when you look at the point, my thing is that they were talking about how dare she protest on the job, but now we have NFL players that are taking knees on the job.
Yeah,
and all of a sudden it's like, how dare you take a knee on the job and protest on the job? And I say to this is like, bull, and I'm going to pretend like we have FCC censors, and I say that because of the fact that, number one, this is another thing I want to point out to people who are all up in arms about the protests, about interfering with their game. First of all, it's taking place during the time period when until 2009 that the players weren't even on the field, and it doesn't go into the game. It's not like you're breaking out with the national anthem in the middle of the game or something, or you're doing something of that nature. So when we say that they're interfering with the game, that's bull. And then when we're saying that I'm watching now, the part that had me more disturbed is that now that the owners, that 45 has said something about play, that they come out and they unite, but we're still not discussing the issue that Colin originally took the knee for.
Or that he's out of a job.
Oh, he's still out of a job. But to me, I'm going to say this also. To me, it's bigger than that now. They could hire him back tomorrow, and I still wouldn't be watching NFL because they have not addressed any of the issues of people of color in this country that was originally started. by the protest. And this protest that they're doing now, the unity and the linking arms, that is not about the issue either. That is about the fact that now the owners are upset because he called their favorite players or their slaves, he called them son of a bitches. And now it's like, oh, we got to show unity and we're going to stand together. Still not addressing the issue. And now the protest is not about what Colin started it off as. It's about basically protesting 45. But the thing that gets me with that is you're protesting him after he said that. But you didn't protest after he said on the Access Hollywood tape came out. You didn't protest the things he said after Charlottesville. You didn't protest the things he said in connection with Ariana Huffington and her husband leaving her for a man. You didn't protest the ban on transgender in the military or the travel ban. You didn't protest any of that. But the minute he says this, all of a sudden you're standing up in unity with other players. And this is not about the issue. When you deal with the issue that people of color in this country are systematically at the will of injustice and inequality in this country. And before we even get into the aspect of I am 2.5 times more likely to be killed in a police stop, then we're not addressing those issues. And this little protest that the NFL is doing is not about the bigger issue to me. The bigger issue is we need to address the inequality issue in America. And
I agree with that.
You all linking arms is not about us. It is not. It's about you standing up for being called sons of a bitches.
Yeah.
And instead of saying that, hey, forget what 45 is talking about. If I'm going to, and then Ray Lewis, yeah, Mr. I'm never going to kneel. And I look up at I look up and I see you kneeling on the news, because I'm not watching the NFL. I'm not tuning into the NFL, but I'm looking on the news, and all of a sudden you're down on your knees and at a game, and you're like, I'm never going to kneel when the anthem is playing. But we're kneeling now. It's like we're not kneeling for the issue. We're kneeling because it's the popular thing to do now, instead of saying we're still not addressing the issue.
But the thing is, that's not new either. There's always been this popular thing to follow, like, oh wait, it's cool to do this, so let me do this now. You know, so eventually it's going to wear off, and you're going to be back where you started. You know, which is just, I don't know.
Yeah, and Jocelyn says, she says, I'm tired of this. It disrespects the vets. Yes. What disrespects veterans is 48% of the homeless population being vets. What disrespects the vet is the suicide rate of 22 a day, whilst the VA does nothing. What disrespects the vet is the election of a president that mocks them. And she hits my points. She hits my point. She also spoiled my going into it. But that is it. And when we talk about—
But that's because you all are vets.
Yeah.
I'm going to put it out, I mean, straight out. You know, it's like the other day I got into a huge argument because they were saying, well, this is disrespectful to the military. I was like, have you went on my Facebook feed and asked any of my friends that are active military or retired military or among any of the categories, have you spoken to a vet and asked the vets how they feel about this?
And the answer would probably be no. You know, you have these people who have never worn a uniform telling you how people who wear uniforms feel.
Exactly.
Or telling me, or I have friends who went into the military to defend the flag of the United States and all. And I'm like, one, let's get real. No one died for a piece of cloth. And number two, the piece of cloth changes every time you add a state to the union. I understand what it symbolizes, but let's be realistic. While I posted the oath one day of what we take when we go into the military, and in nowhere in that oath does it say I've signed up to defend the flag, as I'm signing up to defend the Constitution of the United States. And one of the first amendments in the Constitution that the founding fathers thought was important enough to put in there first was freedom of speech, freedom of religion, and freedom of peaceful assembly to redress issues, because they just come out of Revolutionary War.
Yeah.
And I'm gonna tell you all this, because I always tell you, I'm through asking to be treated equal. I'm through begging. I'm through having these conversations. Y'all have these conversations about why we should be treated equal. I'm either gonna treat me equal or we're gonna suffer the consequences of it. Because we're getting to that point now where, like John F. Kennedy said, if you do not allow peaceful protests, you're ensuring that there will be violent protests. And we're getting to that point in this country now where after 400 years of institutional slavery on some level, 100 years of Jim Crow and the civil rights movement. And then I need to remind people, because they say, oh, this happened so long ago that no one's alive today. Ross Barnett was elected in this country in Mississippi in 1962. And he ran on a segregationist platform. A segregationist platform. He was a devout racist that believes in separation of the races, and he won the governorship of this state. So don't tell me that, this was all long ago and we're not dealing with this now. We're dealing with this in our history, in our timeline. We were talking, you and I were talking about the Mississippi didn't even ratify the 13th Amendment. Yeah,
until
2009, was it? Something like that.
It was a
technicality. Yeah. Yeah.
So I want to ask you a few questions, because I've already been live. Everybody knows how I feel about it. I want to know, how do you feel about when people say, well, yes, people of color were enslaved, but so were the Irish, so were these other races? I want to know your response to this, that they are justifying slavery because another race was enslaved.
Yeah, thanks for blindsiding me. I appreciate that, because my first thought was I couldn't say, but I hear that, but I don't even know why I'm having conversations with people that ask me that question, because my first reaction is, what does that have to do with the fact that I'm fighting oppression of all forms, and to do with the fact that, if you're saying that, what are you saying? That you're justifying that the 400 years of slavery that was endured by a whole race of people that is nothing like the indentured servitude that was experienced by the Irish in this country when they came here. Indentured servitude and chattel slavery that we experienced are, number one, two different things. But the other thing is that the outgrowth of that into Jim Crowism, into the civil rights movement and beyond, it's no comparison. It is no comparison to what the Irish, and I'm not taking anything away from them, but when you make those statements, you're trying to devalue everything else and trying to not understand that the slavery experienced by people of color in this country is much vastly different than that and much more intricate than that. We have a country that when the Constitution came into effect, it didn't have to have a 13th Amendment to include people of Irish descent. But when you have a country that up until the 20th century still systematically not only discriminated against, but it was degenerate and it was systematically illegal to discriminate against. So that's a whole different, those are like different rate. And I'm trying to be intelligent explain this, but really when I get down to it, I was like, if you say that and you look at it, at best, you're misinformed about history. And at worst, you're racist.
Well, I want to do let's get real here, because Jocelyn pointed out there are still segregated schools in the state of Mississippi. What are your responses to that? Because I know these schools, and I am surprised that, and I'm going to call them off, the HRC, the ACLU, Southern Poverty Law, these organizations have not stepped up and stopped this. What are your opinions on this?
That they haven't stepped up and stopped segregation in schools?
The segregated schools that are very public and very well known of.
No, see, I guess this might sound contrary to what you all believe I advocate, but until I look at this country before integration, and I've studied and talked to a lot of people, Dr. Mason, Gwen Beck, Bishop James Black, these people were telling me what it was like when Main Street was the center of Black businesses. My thing is that after integration, there should not be a plan, and that includes education. It seems like we allow education to be taken over by somebody that didn't have our best interests at heart. So when I deal with the fact that there's segregated schools now by design, no matter what they say, it's de facto by design. My thing is that as a community, that should bother us. You see, the problem with some of these issues, there are federal issues and national issues that need to be observed and need to be solved on those levels. There are levels of the community that need to be addressed in the community. The school board here is where we take these things. And we talk to the school board here. We make sure the school boards are following federal guidelines. And then we also take it upon ourselves as a community to make sure our schools are well educated and our students are attending classes. This is a multi-pronged problem when it comes
Well, I
to
was gonna say, there's multiple issues.
yeah, there are multiple issues. And before I can get to some of the racist, overt racist issues, I have to deal with all of my ducks in a row. I have to make sure we're getting schools there. I have to make sure the books are there. We have to take active roles in our education. And we are advocating those active roles to people who don't care about us and then wondering why we are in the condition we're in. We need to get back to the point when my mother, for instance, right? Education was a big thing about it. And I'm a product of that. So we need to get, and I substituted once, and I was seeing that how children were not being inspired at home like I was, and inspired in ways that I can talk about, and inspired in some that people thought were abusive. But and I joke about, but it was like, we have to take responsibility before we go out and say, oh, we're not educating our children well. What are you requiring them to educate? And are you requiring them to be in school at home? Are you able to, at home, make sure? There were lots of books. I was well read. I mean, it wasn't an idea that waiting for required reading at school, which was mostly European authors like Shakespeare or even Canterbury Tales. But my mother took it upon herself in the summer that I read Richard Wright, I read James Baldwin, I read about the Harlem Renaissance. I got a balanced education that had to do with not only what we were teaching in school, but who I was and where we came from, and to celebrate the culture that I come from. Because once you do that, you get to see a different picture. If you don't celebrate who you are and where you come from, and you allow somebody else that doesn't have your best interests at heart to define that, then we have other issues in our community that we have to overcome due to our miseducation. And that's my idea on the school system. Yes, there are certain things that we need to step up and do and make sure the state does and the federal government does, but we need to take responsibility for our education of our children ourselves. And that's across the board.
That's Governor Bryant pitch, by the way.
Yeah, and it's like, just because you're a racist doesn't mean you don't have some good ideas. Because it's woven in there. It's like, that's how you get people sometimes, because you do speak truth, but you cloud it or you misuse it in the way that benefits you. When I say that we need to take more responsibility for educating our brown and dark skinned children, I mean that. Because, one of my campaigns we talked about is ending Black History Month. Because number one, it's the shortest month of the year. I deserve more than that. As a matter of fact, I want 365 days of the year. I want to be I want to be able to. I was talking to one of my nephews one time, and this is what put it on my mind when he said that, oh, we don't have to talk about Ida Wells until February. But you take history. But that's how they view it. They view it Black History Month is February, and that's when we talk about people of color that have made significant contributions to the world. And I'm saying, no, that if that's what you're getting out of it, then we need to end this and start to realize that I have every day on my page, I do This is American History. Because, like it or not, this is America, this is where we are, and this is the place where I wish people would stop telling me to leave if I don't like, because it's about making it better. Because my parents and grandparents and all of our parents have gone into making this country what it is. So I have a heritage here. So I'm going to stay, and we're going to fight for it if necessary. But so stop telling me to go somewhere if I don't like it. Why didn't you all go somewhere when the English came in the American Revolution? Go somewhere else. You were down and do that. You fought for what you believed in. So we're going to fight to make this country great. Not again, because I don't even know what that means to people like Maria. But when was the country great to you? Well, yeah, we can point all through history, and I'm gonna say, no, that didn't do it for me. I can go back to 1967, the year when somebody I know was born. And it wasn't great then. I mean, all the nostalgia and all that for all the people. If we can make this country great, but in turn, we make the world great once we start to realize that the oppression that we are living with and saying is okay, if we stop that. If we start to uplift everybody, we will realize we can make the world great and stop this infighting that is caused by white supremacists that wishes to keep us divided, because they realize that once we unite, we make the world in the image that is best for all of us. So that's my educational experience.
What's your view on it, Wanda?
On what, on the education and on
Segregation in schools.
I thought we moved past that a long time ago.
Education. What's your on the whole? Well, it went into many topics. I found about probably 800, 900 topics in there.
Hey, that's all.
Well, I'm underestimating. I mean, so I just.
I think that it is important for us to learn about our history in our school system, but not, I mean, I think that we don't learn enough about, I don't think that we learn enough about Black history. I don't think we learn enough about Latino culture. I don't think we learn enough about these things. Do we need does everybody need to know those things? Do people need to know those? I mean, you know what I'm saying? So I just think that, yeah, maybe we do that. Revamp the educational system.
Oh yeah, I believe that totally. We need to revamp it, but I think it starts at home.
Absolutely.
And we can't we can't complain about other people educating our children when we're not educating them. And that's what my thing is. I mean, it's not about not having the ability, or some people are mentally not able to what they think is educate, but you can by your actions. But I think it's incumbent that we recognize our part that we play in making the system better also. It can't be a one-way street, because you can't, like, as someone who decries racism, and I don't mind calling it out when I see it, I can't be mad that I turn my children over to a racist system and then they come back either racist or subservient, because I didn't take a part in that system. So segregated schools, like you said, we thought we moved past it with the Arkansas 9 or in Ole Miss when the Meredith first integrated, and we think we moved past these, but we are finding out that not only have we not moved past them, but we moved backwards. Because right here, Nichols Elementary School turned out some of the finest people of color that graduated and went on later in life to do many things, and it was predominantly Black school. But now you don't have that basis, because my undergrad, I went to Jackson State and at the request of family and friends or my grandmother, and and it was because of the fact that she wanted you to understand, to see, and be surrounded by people who look like you and that aspire towards things that you were taught that we weren't aspiring to. The historical Black colleges and universities fulfill a need in the Black community that has to do with the idea of saying, hey, it's okay to be who you are and be celebrated for that without being discriminated or discriminated against. And so our education system has a lot of problems, like we said, but we can address those. We can address those. The physics is physics no matter where it is. Yeah, I could be on the moon and Newton's third law is still going to apply. So learning that is one thing. But when you get to the point where we are not even motivated to learn that, that's another thing. The education, if you and I pick up the same book, and not a history book, we're going to stick with something like math, but if we pick up the same book, right, then the facts in that book are the same.
Yeah.
The facts in that book, and I say history is a whole nother stuff. If we pick up a social studies book and we learn the law, which is another thing we got to get on, because people don't know their rights anymore. I mean, these were mandatory classes when I was in elementary and junior high school: civics, social studies, know your rights. We wouldn't have to have all these know your right campaigns now if we were, as a society, getting on our school boards to reintroduce these things until our curriculum. And then we have to understand these things cost money. You want better education, but you don't want to fund it with taxes increases. All these play into it. So when I think about segregation, your question about segregation, working back to it, is that
it's not such a bad thing.
It's not. If it's educating, it doesn't. Sometimes separate and equal,
and you don't lose the culture,
or not losing the culture, or you get an identity of who you are by being educated by people who look like you. And we already know, as a person of color, that if you put me in a classroom, and if you don't like me saying this, I advise you to turn off the webcast now. But if you put me in a classroom with a Caucasian teacher and a person of color, I'm going to be quicker to respect the person of color in that classroom as a young man than I would the Caucasian. And until I get to that, go out of that and get to that point where I'm able to, what's wrong with that? You know, some people don't understand that we think we're motivated and it's reverse racism. There's no such thing. It's that we have to do what it takes to get to the point we want to be at. And sometimes for children, we have to understand that if you come from a household and everybody in the household is brown or a person of color, and you're thrust into an environment you're not ready for, there's going to be some conflict. And until we grow past that conflict, yeah, you got to work out of it and understand that. But until you do, you have to accommodate that conflict, right? Mm-hmm. Yes, integration, if you want it, that's good. But it's like we fought for the right to be integrated, but it's still a choice. It's still a choice. Legalize segregation, bad. Okay, just going to say that, bad. But if I want
that's a good point.
If I want to have segregation in my house, or if I want to go out and it's a safe space, as you all call them, and when I feel comfortable at, then I should be allowed that. And until such point as we interact on the levels we want to interact, that's what I'm saying.
That is a really
What's pathetic is for our nation to come together on 9/11 or similar has to happen. Why can't we be having one another 6 o'clock? Yeah, you're right. And
you know why?
Dead right.
But you know why? And because I want to bring this up tonight, because we're probably going to end up running over. Because of a 17-year-old trans woman that was gutted. That's why we can't come together. Because of differences that we feel like if you are different, I have the right to attack you. I have the right to slaughter you. I have the right to take your eyeballs out. I have the right to mutate, to tear your genitals. That's the issue right now. That, you know,
and that is a big issue. But that has to do with the fact that when you don't realize that the person who's different than you is human, then you have it. You cannot slaughter and gut a human, someone you think is human or like you, like that. Our segregation, white supremacy is one of those things, one of the most insidious things about it is that I watch how people talk to me when they don't agree with my stance on race. And they talk to me like I'm a thing or I'm less than human than they are. So once you or you meet the racist that meets me and has a conversation with me and gets to know me on a intimate, on a personal level, and then it becomes, oh, you're not like them. So that's even more insulting. I didn't know you were racist till you said that. But you get to that point where you don't think of the subject of your hate as human, then these are the things that happen. And this is because you don't think of them. You think of them not, and people don't realize they're second-class citizens. You don't think of me as a human at all.
Yeah.
You know, when you go back to the Constitution and the 3/5 rule, people don't realize that. How am I 3/5 of a person? But that wasn't even done for my benefit. That was done so southern states can have a population compared to northern states. So you're not thinking of me as human. I'm property. And
exactly.
And you know, I can get tired of my shoes and throw them across the room. But I wouldn't pick up my child to do that with if I think of them as human when I'm mad at them. So when you don't think
but there are some people that do, unfortunately.
And they're not thinking of those children as human.
Yeah,
you cannot treat somebody that you think of as you think of yourself.
You cannot think of somebody as a water bottle that you toss and move it.
Exactly.
We're going to get the point out there.
But you know, some people, and this goes back to, I'll leave this up to you and all our friends that do that. I don't believe you can change a racist heart. That's just me. I don't believe I can talk all day to a racist, and at the end of the day, all I'm going to have is laryngitis. That's just me. I mean, because they don't view me as human, so what I'm saying to them is not human. It's like the ramblings of a well-trained dog or something. So long as that is in place, and I'm not ready to deal with it. I'm sorry. For years, and I'm talking about 400 years, if you've embraced this culture, if you can't look at the fact that these monuments are offensive, this flag is offensive, if you don't see that, There's no more talking I can do. If you didn't get it from the civil rights struggle, there's no amount of talking I can do. Rosa Parks sat in the front of the bus because she was tired and thinking of Emmett Till.
Mm-hmm.
You know, these are things that if you, and then I meet people and they know these facts just as well as I do, and they're just as racist as all outdoors. So there's nothing I knew I'm introduced into this. It's not a new way. When I hear people talking about the protest, one of the things that got me upset was like, oh, we don't protest this way and you got to protest another way. When you have your foot on my neck, you do not get to tell me how I'm getting it off.
Right.
I don't care. I don't want to hear that anymore. And it's not, that's a dangerous thing to start telling me in my face, that you get to tell me how to protest. And I say, well, you know, I don't want to turn on sports on my leisure off day. And I'm sure Michael McDonald didn't want to get lynched in Alabama.
Well, then don't turn on the damn football game.
It's beyond that, because you don't want, it makes you uncomfortable to think of these situations.
That is exactly
well, how do you think it makes mothers to feel when they come home and their child has been killed because somebody didn't think of them as human? I'm sorry about your uncomfort doing the, what is the national anthem? 3-4 minutes of the game? Oh, it's not even of the game.
Maybe.
It's the beginning of the game. And you're saying, I don't want politics in my sports. Oh, but in 2009, prior to that, we didn't even, the team wasn't even on the field.
I did not know that until you posted that.
Yeah, they weren't even on the field for the national anthem. We have people, we have reports about how the government paid National Football League to do these things, right? They call it paid patriotism. You know, and I'm like, this is what you all are defending now? Like, this has been going on since the inception of the National Football League. All of a sudden, and these are people that the national anthem comes on and they're sitting at home like,
oh, I know,
with a beer in their hand.
Yeah.
And they're saying, oh, we got to stand for the national anthem, we disrespecting vets. Oh, if you want to talk about disrespecting vets, why weren't you over there with us when we were getting shot at? Why were you at home and now you have the nerve to talk about, oh, this is disrespect. I can't believe you all are disrespecting the people that died.
This is disrespect to the vets.
Yeah.
Have you asked the vet what they thought? Because you're disrespecting the vet by assuming what they think. You know, I keep saying I'm tired of it, and he keeps jumping on me because I say I'm tired of it. But I'm to the point that I'm where you're at with you can't, if they don't want to learn, you can't teach them, or you can't educate them if they're not open. Where you need to take a baseball bat and beat their head in. Is the point where we're at. You know, when I had somebody on my feed the other day justifying slavery because another race was enslaved.
Another ethnic group, not another race. Another
ethnic group. You know, that blew me away. You know, when they sit there and they justify the statues, okay? When they say, well, I'm sorry that your feelings are hurt and I hope you feel better now that the statues are taken down. Are you freaking kidding me?
Yeah.
We have statues of people that tortured human beings, and we are worshiping them as a country. You know, it is the people that are taking them down that are the true Americans. Those are the true Americans. The ones that are standing up for what America really is supposed to be, represent.
Yeah, that too. But my problem is, we still get to the point where anytime someone tell me about their heritage, I was like, so you're an Edward Snowden fan? They said, no, he's a traitor. I was like, so Robert E. Lee, leader of the Confederacy that succeeded from the Union, that whole issue, that's not traitor.
Exactly.
If you look at every state I've looked at, except Virginia, I think, when they talk about why they succeeded from the Union, it was about their rights to own slaves. I mean, Mississippi, the glorious institution of slavery. So these are things that I tell you. You can look these up for yourself. I can't educate you any more than that. You know these things. When I hear people talk about this is my heritage.
The thing is, because they're uncomfortable, as you stated, they don't want to admit that the Caucasian man, the white man, came in here and did these acts. You know, in English class the other day, the owl called my name. We were talking about how this up in Canada, they sent this vector into this tribe, and the tribe was getting older, and they had alcoholism and different issues, okay? They send this priest in there, and this priest judged the tribe and starts converting them and starts doing this different stuff. And I'm like, you know, and they were talking about how Christianity came in there and saved this tribe. I came back with the story, why did the white man feel that their lifestyle was better than theirs?
Really? That was your answer. Yeah, you haven't studied history, you don't.
Well,
yeah,
you know what? I mean,
but going back to like you tell me when you're surprised, the whole culture of their history up until that point, that's what they do. That's what they have done systematically. I can't point to one point in history where Caucasians came in contact with indigenous people and didn't think they knew better and that they had a right to change it. Going back, even the Chinese, when they first came in contact with a civilization that was old when they were still in the Caucasus Mountains, they still went in because they think they had the technological superiority and thought they had to tell them how to live. When you deal with their religion, which has done more damage to the world's spirituality than any single thing in the world, then that teaches you right there. When they
slaughtered millions of people,
slaughter them, but also the ones they didn't slaughter, they gave an image of a savior that looked nothing like them. I mean, the Native Americans, the Africans. I mean, you go into these places and you give them this image that looks what just like you, and tells you this is your savior. I'm not taking issue with Christians. Don't jump on me. We all have our different beliefs and all that. That's fine. Whatever makes you a better person, go for it, believe it. As long as it doesn't, if you're going to justify enslaving me with it, I'm all for it. But when you
killing me for it.
When you get to that point where your religion is a weapon against brown people or anybody that you don't like, or you think you know better than. The Native Americans were not Christians when they came here.
Exactly.
They whoever they worship or whatever they worship, that was their right. But to go in and systematically use your religion as a weapon and destroy, and then turn around, this is what gets me. You turn around and do some of the most abhorrent things in the name of your religion, and then teach you in love. How can we not suffer from Stockholm Syndrome? How can we not suffer from post-traumatic stress for generations when you have systematically used our spirituality against us? When you have demonized everything that our culture believed prior to your culture coming in. You want me to believe that all of my ancestors that were not Christians are in hell.
Your whole culture.
Yeah, my whole culture.
Your whole heritage.
The Inquisition never ended, you're right, because you get to that point where we have condemned everything before you arrived. You know, look at the Incas, the Aztecs, the Mayan cultures. We're talking about high cultures. And you come in and you're like, I don't care if you built buildings larger than we have, or you irrigated farms, or you have mastered fertilization. I don't care if the Native Americans, if it didn't exist, that we wouldn't last through the winter. We know better than you. And not only do we know better, we're going to force you to do better. Excuse me, we weren't broke. We're broke now because we ran into you, but we wasn't broke. We were all right.
If it's not broke, you're not fixing it. We're having an issue in Amazon right now. You know, people that have never been around civilization, we're infesting their tribes, and we are bringing in diseases, killing them off.
Yeah, that's nothing new. Look at the Trail of Tears in this country. Look at the fact that the Native Americans were given blankets with smallpox.
And you said exactly, you know. Well, you said exactly when you said that when people feel that they know better than another person, you know, and they want to force that on the other people.
It's not on just people. It's when your whole culture's existence is predicated on taking the best of every culture you run into and incorporating it and culturally appropriating it as your own. It's nothing. I don't think. See, my thing with Don and I were talking about cultural appropriation over the Taylor Swift video, and I was like, I'd be mad if you all thought that was supposed to be Beyonce. But my issue with is not this cultural appropriation. It's not to acknowledge that it's not your culture. It's nothing wrong if I have been a better will than you, and we want to advance society, and you use my will, or you incorporate my will into your structures. That's growth. That's natural growth. But you didn't create this. And that's where we get into history. Our history has always been dictated before the age of the internet and by the conqueror. And so all of the technological advances that other cultures are made, this is one of the things I point out to people when they talk to me about white supremacy in the world, and brown people have never accomplished anything great that was not bequeathed by Caucasians. It's like, you understand the pyramids, Elizabeth Taylor playing Cleopatra, the pyramids are in Egypt, which is a part of Africa. You know, the large Ziggurat pyramid in Mexico City was there when you got here. It didn't come into existence like when the Caucasians invaded Mexico and Cortez went on a hunting spree. These things existed before you, but you would have people believe now that there were no great accomplishments that occurred in the world that you were not part of. And that's why I say I'm on my mission to end Black History Month and incorporate all history into the year, because these are things you should be learning year-round, that you should be celebrating year-round. Not just when other people tell me it's can. And then you mean the shortest month of the year? Really? No, I got 365 days of the year that I'm going to talk about history and how we played a role in history. Because if we don't, then you get to set the narrative. And as long as you're setting the narrative is not going to involve an accurate depiction of people of color. If you wait, even though he did some of it to his self, in 100 years, when we tell the story of Michael Jackson, one of the greatest pop musicians of our time, he's going to be a Caucasian. Not just because he had bigger lago and he was big, but because that's what the narrative is going to be about if we don't step up and record our history. And, you remember oral history cultures where it was passed down from grandmother to granddaughter. And these are cultures that we don't have that anymore. We're allowing someone else to tell our story. And like we're talking about the young trans woman, it's like if we're not careful, these stories that is going to become.
Which is why we're on video live here, folks.
Yeah,
this is one of the reasons we're doing this show.
Yeah, live. That's one of the show. But I was also thinking about something you shared with me, and I didn't know if you wanted me to share it, but I got to share it.
Oh wait.
Oh, it's for Halloween.
Oh no, man.
Yeah. Because the teacher has to prepare me for things because she knows how I react, right? But she was telling me about haunted house Halloween thing that she wanted me to go to with her. But she said, I gotta warn you before we go, right?
I did not say I want to go with.
Yeah.
Because I need to be outside. I need to be away with bail money.
Yeah, you need to be on the GoFundMe.
I need to go out again.
Because if you told me about it, and the setup was that there's going to be these two Black guys, and they're going to grab a white woman and throw her in a cage. That was the setup. And so my first thing before I went irate, because this is supposed to be horror, and I said, well, they demonize, so they have horns, or is there something that makes them monsters besides the fact that they're just Black?
They were two big Black guys.
Oh, excuse me, they were two big Black guys.
Yeah.
So that made them. But the whole point was that if that's your idea of horror, that these two Black guys are going to grab a white woman and throw her in a cage. And I'm not even going to go into the sexual connotations of that. That's just wrong. But you go into that, and this is a Halloween, and we say, well, it's just Halloween, it's just fantasy or play or whatever. I don't have these fantasies. And this is not horror. You're saying that you're terrified that the white woman is terrified by the idea of two Black people grabbing her and throwing her in a cage. I've met many people of color. And, what you are raising crazy people, but I've never met the two Black guys that want to grab a white woman and throw her in her cage. So when I heard that, I'm glad you won, because if I would have walked in there and saw that, it would have been a horror show. We were going to shut that down right then and there. Because this is what is so insidious about our culture, is that everyone looks at it and says it's acceptable. I don't see no fangs, I don't see no Halloween cons. And then you told me that they were going to be in chains also.
They suggested they were going to be in chains themselves.
Yeah.
But, when I was originally told about it, I'm like, hang on a second. You're telling me you're going to put two people of color grabbing a white girl and throwing her into a cage. That's all I heard. And I'm like, So basically,
it's not me this time. It's not me. That was that's her.
So you know, I just was blown away, and I'm still blown away by the fact that anybody thinks it's okay.
Yeah, I mean,
You know,
I live in a society where that is deemed as that's. You mean to tell me in the age of an orange president that is your horror standard now? An orange president with nuclear codes? You know, if I walked into a Halloween and there's an orange man with a nuclear codes and walking around, I'm scared. I'm horrified.
Yeah.
But well, what image are we creating here when we?
And that was my whole thing, you know, because if we stop and look at the media, you know, the media portrays the angry black man. You know, it's always the angry black man's fault that they get shot by the police. It's always, you know, it's that portrayal, you know, and I am by no means saying that the media is increasing racism within the United States, which the alt-right is trying to claim currently, because that's all they show.
When that's all there is, it's not about what all they show. Like it's it's not like they went out and created this narrative.
You know that you know, I was like, how, you know, why do you have a big white man and a big black man? Why do you have a Hispanic male, or, you know what I'm saying? Why did that be in this? There's a symbolization here. You know, I don't think a lot of people stopped and thought about it. You know, when I was asked about it, I don't think they understood the symbolization of when somebody's walking through and they see two black men grabbing a white girl, a little white girl.
Of course.
Okay, you know, you know,
a big white girl gets to fight back.
Yeah, you know, a little white girl, she's screaming, and you know, even though there's they're doing it innocently, I feel there is and I don't even want to go that far, to be honest. I know the one person that told me about it. I know the people involved. I feel there is a really, and this is going to minimize it here extremely a lot.
Don't worry, I won't let you minimize it.
Dangerous slope. And I told him, I see a backlash coming on if they continue to go this route.
Well, you know what? The sad thing is, maybe it won't be a backlash because I probably won't be there. But this because you told me this now, and you know. But the thing about it is, it's not. You know, I as a person of color see the racial implications of it. But then I can also see if I was a woman. As a man, I see the implication of it. Like, men grabbing women, doing them cage, wrong still. So if you even change it, if it's a Hispanic male and a white, I'm still having a problem with it because it's Halloween fantasy and all that, and I get that, and the horror movies and all that, but this is choice. So there are things that I can do that I say these are scarier or, you know, more far-fetched, this is a haunted house, and that would be acceptable. Like if they were in makeup and it was zombies or something. But the thing that got me is that they're not. We're gonna do change. And I'm like, no, that doesn't work for me. And so if you change it to Hispanic, or I'm still gonna have a problem with it.
That's true.
And so women could have a problem with it.
It's like a scene in the house. That's just like a.
Yeah, there's gonna be a scene that two black men grab a white girl and drag her to the cave. Well, she's screaming and trying to get away.
Yeah, and see, my horror is going to be when I start got something in my pocket or something. I'm like, oh, what's going on here? And you know, and rush in like Superman. And that is, I'm joking about it, but I'm glad I didn't see it firsthand.
And
without having some kind of foresight that was happening, because that's see. Some racism people don't realize is that there's the racist, and then there's the product of racist thought or racist teachings. When racism is a two-prong because it involves the racist and their belief, and then they involve a class of people that you have systematically taught and beaten to the point where they think they're lower than you. So the things that they even start to do are internalized. That's what I say racism is two-pronged. And when people like quote me stats about the number of murders in the Black community when I'm talking about racism, and I say, yeah, that's an issue, and that's an issue that we as a community have to deal with. But that doesn't mean I can't deal with that and call you a racist at the same time, but you're still instituting these policies and you're still on this timeline. So when I think about, when you tell me, we hear things and we say, well, people of color are doing this to each other, or people of color did this, and you would make it sound like we haven't undergone 400 years of mental, emotional, spiritual suppression. And then sometimes I understand that there's a byproduct of that.
I hate that justification though.
Yeah.
Because it's a human being is doing something to a human being.
Mm-hmm.
That's what it is, okay?
It goes back to my thing saying you see the human in everybody, but no, not everybody does. When you
sure. But that's humanitarian.
You can't even own your cat, or you think it's a dog, but you can't. You don't own him, her, Ruth.
Her.
Yeah, you don't own her. You're friends with your dog. You view your dog as not just a dog that is something like Michael Vick viewed dogs. Yeah, I took a pop shot at Michael Vick because I'm mad at him over what he said about Colin Kaepernick. So yeah, you don't view that. You view your dog as something more, and then some people view their dog. So you can't treat your dog a certain way.
That's true.
As a matter of fact, you probably get mad that I call him your dog.
No,
a cat.
actually I don't.
Her dog is a cat, by the way, right? The dog.
Look,
her dog is a cat that thinks it's a dog.
The kitty loves.
Yeah. So that's what I'm saying. But when you don't view the object of your scorn and racism as human, then the treatment that you subject them to, yeah, it's foreign to you and I. There are people, I laugh and joke, but I'm only really going to do something in defense of what I believe. I'm not going to actively go out and hunt down racists. But if you're crossing my fence in a hood, you're going to get what you deserve, because you're crossing my fence in a hood. I'm defending. But yeah. I'm not going to, and there are some things I just wouldn't do. I'm not going to lynch somebody to get back at somebody for lynching my great-great-great-grandparents or a great-great-great relative of mine, because that's inhumane.
That brings up the point I wanted to.
Squirrel.
No, that brings up a point I have. So I want to jump off that point, because another thing that I keep saying, and I am attacking the people that are defending racism, and that's why I'm saying it's going to go over today, because of the fact that I keep seeing this. Well, you were enslaved personally, so how can you feel anything towards slavery?
Because I'm human. I'm human. That's like saying if I go out there or Puerto Rico, I can look at Puerto Rico and my heart bleeds right now when I hear 97% of the population is in the dark, or 50% of the population doesn't have water. I don't even have to know anybody that's going through that personally, and I still want to help because I'm human. I'm looking at people and I'm saying that in a couple of degrees to the east, that could have been us. I'm looking at the fact that if I see suffering, that I can empathize and sympathize with that suffering, and I want to help. So when you do say things like that, well, how can you say, slavery and how I feel about people that I was not enslaved? But when you deal with that issue, I'm not just dealing with that 270 years of physical slavery. I'm dealing with the product of those physical years, Jim Crow, the Civil Rights Movement, the point that until the 60s, we had a racist governor of the state, and that these policies placed in effect have long-term consequences. So it's not just slavery, it's everything, the fallout of that we have to deal with. And if we don't deal with, if I don't stand up now, who is? I mean, that's one of the things that I've always been instilled with when people are like, well, why me? And I'm like, why not? See, that's the difference between an alpha male and somebody who just goes with the flow. My thing is that when things happen, why not me? Why can't I stand up? Why don't I stand up? When I meet people and they say, well, you have this and you've done this and you've done through this, so you can sit down, or you don't have this problem. It is my issue. When you come to me with issues, when we talk about what happened outside when I'm driving down, I see a young man pulled over, or when I'm at when you call me about an issue that's going on
Mhm.
at Spanish studies class,
Yeah.
and it's like, I'm not even there. But it affects me because, like Dr. Injustice, if injustice is allowed to grow anywhere, it eventually comes knocking at your door.
You're right.
And if
You're
you
right.
don't stop it, then it's going to come knocking at your door. And if you're not fighting it on a regular basis, you're not going to be prepared for it when it comes knocking at your door. And we have to be human.
Which is one of the issues why I did not understand when I was told that it's been happening this whole time in Biloxi, that nobody's been reporting it. I mean, how has the profile in Biloxi that is known, I'm gonna be honest, is known throughout the legal system, it is known throughout the state. How has nobody stepped up and actually attacked it? You know, and that's a big part of my issue, okay? I know for a fact that it is known throughout the legal system on the coast, okay?
That discrimination exists?
That the profiling is existing in in certain areas, okay?
Okay, and
why isn't
that's a certain area we're narrowing it down to, the whole country?
Well, the whole country, yeah. You know, and let me tell you another one.
Yeah.
Let's go to the immigration rally. Okay, dreams and hopes, folks. Make sure you're there, immigration rally. The other day I was talking to a friend, and they were telling me do not have anybody there that could possibly have immigration issues because of the fact that there's nothing to be done. That the profile is legal in today's world. You know, there's just nothing, with Sessions as the Attorney General, there's nothing anybody could do.
There is one thing I want to say. They cannot arrest you. I'm not saying arrest you because it's black. They cannot go where you're rallying, and ICE cannot go in there and start running. They just can't do that. They just can't go in there and just start.
No, but they can as you're leaving, which is one of the issues, because let's talk about the dreamer that was in Jackson that was walking down the stairs, and as they spoke, they were arrested by ICE. You know.
Are you talking about Daniela Vargas?
I didn't know.
Her father and her brother were arrested for.
I don't know the exact details. I've been told this sideline information, but they used that one as an example that.
Well, they sent out a press release saying that she was going to speak. Who did that?
Yeah.
That's another thing.
That's another thing. You invite an undocumented worker or undocumented person to the Democratic National Convention, and then say, well, she's going to speak. And you're like waving a red flag in front of a charging bull. And it's like, what do they have? What choice do they have? I mean, that was irresponsible. You know, that was one of the things.
It was irresponsible.
But I'm saying that what point are you trying to prove here? That you're trying to prove a point that this woman, brave woman, is speaking out, and she's going to be apprehended afterwards to prove what point. And then I don't hear you getting her back in the country. I don't hear you doing anything.
Well, she wasn't deported. Actually, it all wound up working out because they did, media campaign and things like that. So they were able to get her out of detention. She's still here. She's still in the city of Jackson. But she is going through the doctor process, I believe.
Right. Well, my issue with it is that they used her as bait. They used her as They honestly did. They published her saying we have an undocumented immigrant going to speak at this rally. They publicly blasted it, and then they used her as bait. So when they did arrest her, here's your news. The camera, the media was all over it.
This goes to one of my things about why I don't like either party sometimes. Is because I thought that was deplorable. And I think it was more for political gain than it was caring about the issue, or in this specific case, her. I think that was deplorable to me when I get to that and I heard about it, and I was like, wow. And it worked out. We're glad it worked out for her. But I guarantee you, that's not what it's like. This just worked out. I'm sure there was some people that helped and did that, but it wasn't. They were like, okay, we got what we wanted.
She still has to go to court. She still, it's not over with.
Yeah.
Because it's.
Well, they put her at risk, and that's why.
At risk. Yeah. I don't want to say something that sounds crazy.
No, there is no crazy. The parties are
You're
crazy.
talking to me here.
Yeah, I was just saying.
What are you?
Because I do believe in the safety of keeping people protected and their safety and things like that,
Right.
right? But ultimately, the decision is ultimately, Nathan, if I can tell you all day, don't ride the roller coaster, you're gonna fall off,
Right.
right? But ultimately, you're
As
gonna.
as an adult, I have a, right, and that's one thing I said, she did.
Was she
still go
informed
She was informed, she had an attorney.
beforehand?
She
She was, okay.
Yeah,
So she was informed of the possible
She
risk.
had DACA. So she had DACA before, so she knows she's got an attorney.
Right.
So yeah, her attorney told her not to, do anything. A lot of people told her not to come out, don't, but I think her attorney had left, or there was, I don't know when she told her attorney not that she was gonna go to that press conference, but I know that after she left the press conference, she was arrested.
Yeah. It just blows me away that.
And none of the people that did the press conference, held the press conference, did it intentionally to bait her. It wasn't a bait thing. It was, I think, it was during time where all these raids were going on, and I guess they kind of just wanted the story to come out. And there was another issue going on with some other attorneys. So the press conference took place. Her name should never been released saying that she was.
Agreed.
Yeah, yeah.
I mean, I know DACA people right now that even when I say, well, would you like to be on a podcast with just your voice? They're like, no. They won't even do a voice recording. I mean,
we're scaring people too. I mean, this is a time to be afraid, yes.
Yeah,
it is a time to be afraid. But telling people to continue to live their lives in the shadow, or in the dark is also not the right.
What is?
You're right. The right thing is to get the system changed. Those of us who can move around in the light.
Agree that.
We have to take the responsibility to say, hey, you're right. I don't want you in the shadow. I don't want you to have to, it's like dating somebody and you don't want to be seen in public.
Mm-hmm.
Something wrong with that. But you're right. On one hand, you say stay safe, but the only way to stay safe is in the shadows, and you can't enjoy the benefit of the sunlight. But it comes incumbent on, we need to make it safe to come out in the sunlight. We need to take it upon ourselves to address these issues in ways that only we can, and say, yeah, look, this is inhumane, this is wrong. I think sometimes we're taking the wrong approach by trying to couch it in other terms. The thing is, it's inhumane, it's wrong, it's racist. Those are the beating tools. And until we address it the way we have to address it by legalities, then it's hard to say, well, come and do this and come and be here when I'm asking you basically to put yourself at risk.
Right.
So it is catch-22, but we have to end that by making this system do what it says when it says we the people. We are the people. And until we realize that, come together and exercise that, we're not going to get anywhere. We're going to always be at the discretion. Government, and I keep telling you, everybody in government works for us.
Thank you.
Not the other way around. We're not subject to them. They work for us. And if we don't understand that if the system is broken, it is our responsibility to fix it by any means necessary. Mm-hmm. That's what I keep my references of people that don't like us. They say, it's violent. The American Revolution was not a talking contest. They were not educating the British about why they should be free. Yeah, they educated them all right. They educated them at the end of a barrel of a gun. And y'all can take that the wrong way if you want to. But what I'm saying is, we have to be prepared to do what it takes to fix the broken system. Or we're going to always have the system in place where human beings are going to be relegated to places where human beings should not be relegated to. And it's getting late.
Yeah.
So we got to wrap this up. So we're going to have closing comments. Start off to my right beforehand. And, I'm going to end it myself. I got to answer it.
So basically, I really don't know what we can do to have any immediate change. But right now is the time for us to solidify together, to come together and help each other out. And I'm hoping that as the next month unfolds, we're waiting on to see what Congress does with DACA and things like that, and also the Muslim ban, right? So we just need to all come together and do it for each other.
I mean, we all need to be human beings.
Yeah, for now. Yeah.
So I'm gonna do a little shout out to the for the rally that's coming up. I know we have other shows before then, but I really need that rally to turn out. It's called Dreams and Hope because we're all immigrants unless you're Native American. You know, in all honesty, we all had, our families all had dreams when they came to North America. They all had, you know, most of them had hope, hopefully, you know. There were some that didn't. There were a lot that did not come here by choice.
Yeah, I was gonna say it.
I did not.
You were looking at me like, okay.
So,
yeah, I want to address that one. Change my whole comment.
So, anyways, the rally is going to be at USM in Hattiesburg on November 9th from 3 to 4. We have special speakers set up. We have about, right now I have 8 of them, 8 or 9. T. Nathan obviously is going to be one of them. He's always got to speak.
Yeah, I take up two slots.
Yeah. After at 4 o'clock, we're going to run out of there. We will be down on the University of Southern Mississippi Golf Park campus. This is a team effort with MIRA, Mississippi
Immigrants.
Rights Alliance, right? Okay, I'm still learning. It's taking a lot of work. I want to thank everybody involved. I do want to give a shout out to University of Southern Mississippi. We have on the golf park campus, we have a LGBT resource center that we are sharing with the Spanish Society. We have teamed up together, and the Women and Gender Studies is going to be in there. So that I couldn't have done that without a lot of help from a lot of different people. I wanted to thank them, and I'm not going to give the person over the United States any more time. So I didn't want to give USM a shout out for that and give a shout out to the rally. So make sure you all attend. Just be safe.
And in closing, I would like to say thank you for joining us. And I just want to, this is one of the things I want to say to 45 supporters that troll on my timeline. And say things like President Obama messed the country up for 8 years, and 45 is getting it back on track.
Right.
Before you all come at me like that, in case you haven't known, history research is my thing. So if you can't point out specific cases that you want me to address, then don't say that. You know I tell you a lot to say on my timeline, but if you're going to troll me, be prepared for me trolling you back. But if you're going to come over there, at least come with an intelligent conversation, because I'm going to blast you with enough intelligence to send you back to the Stone Age. So when you come on there, have something to say, and then I will respond to it. If you have your feelings on your sleeve, you probably shouldn't come on my page. But,
or my page.
Yeah. And I also like to send out, Future ran for Homecoming Princess.
Homecoming rep.
For USM, and she was informed just that she didn't win, but I would like to acknowledge that she ran. I would like to commend her for that, and I'm proud that she took the opportunity that some of us don't take to step outside of our boxes and find out what life is about, because that's what life happens outside of your box. So I commend you for that.
Appreciate
it. You all have a nice night. Yeah, we ran over a little while. So we appreciate you joining us, and we're out of here, and we'll see you next week. Same bad time, same bad channel. Bye. I don't get home and get some rest.